Hi there, welcome to my studio in Cornwall. So I'll be painting a landscape today. I've used a filler paste to give some texture for the foreground, and I've let this dry for a while, and then I have primed the canvas with a few coats of white acrylic. And I'm starting to paint the sky in a very dark midnight blue. I've mixed a ultramarine blue with some black and some cerulean blue for this colour. And the colours I'm using today are lemon yellow, creamy yellow, white, cream, ultramarine, cerulean blue, rose umber, burnt umber, and black. And so I'm trying to vary the shades of blue in the sky. And I'll probably add more layers to the sky as I go. And the idea is to have the colours underneath showing through in places. And I put some raw umber into the sky on the right hand side, but because I've got blue on my brush it will be darker, but I'll just keep going lighter and lighter as I go. And I'm painting over the texture paste in the foreground. I want to get some darks in there at the moment. And I've got it nice and patchy. That's how I want it. I want it variation of shades in the sky. So I've dried this section and I'm going to start to put in another coat into that sky. And I put a little bit more ultramarine in that mix just to make it more of a royal blue. And adding some cream to the horizon, I want to have a lighter background to put my trees in so that, they'll show up. And I make my cream by using quite a lot of white and just a little tad of raw sienna, and it makes a lovely cream. All the colours that I use have been mixed. I never use anything straight from the tube. Sometimes there's 3, 4 different colours that I mix together, and also what is on my brush. There could be a little bit of blue, and it just gives a lovely subtle effect. In between colours, I just rub the brush onto a cloth and vigorously so that I get most of it off, but it doesn't get everything off. And that's what I want, because I want the variation of colour and shades. And I don't really wash my brushes that often. At the end of the day, because I paint all day, I'll use the brushes all day, and then at the end of the day, I might wash them, give them a good wash. And I use very, very hot water and just washing up liquid, and rinse them well. And then I dry them on I've got a Rayburn, so I dry them on the Rayburn, and they're ready, right, for the next day. So I'm a professional artist and I paint every single day, and sometimes I'm working on 2 or 3 paintings at the same time. So top tip, I don't like my brushes to be saturated. So if I'm going to stop painting for a while, I just put them in a cloth and spray it with a little bit of water, just a small amount, just to keep it damp. And I don't want to saturate them, I just want to keep them damp, ready for my next session. So if I go down to the house and have a coffee or something, my brushes are not dried out and they're not too wet. So this is one of my very special brushes that unfortunately lost its handle, and I've had to put a bit of I cannot manage without it. You'll see how short those bristles are. I've worn them short like that. They started off quite a lot, longer than that. And I've just put a bit of tape along the barrel there so that I can hold it. But there's going to come a day when that, when it's finished. So I'm busy wearing down another one in its place. So I'm starting to put in a tree on the left-hand side, and I have used a olive green for this. I mixed it by using lemon yellow, a little bit of ultramarine, and black. And you can get it to any shade that you want, really. This is a dark olive, but you can get it to a much lighter olive just by using less black and more yellow. So the trees are a little bit fiddly, really. You've just got to keep changing the shape until you like it, and also adding a few more colours. I usually add a burnt umber and some black into the trees, as well as the olive green. It's just a question of trial and error, really. And I'm constantly adding to the shape of the trees. And I just use my fingernail to put marks into the trees. And now it's time to add some highlights into the sky. And I just use the cream for this, I don't use a white. The cream gives a more subtle effect than stark white. And I'm starting to add a peach colour into the clouds. And I make that with just adding some raw sienna and a little tiny touch of burnt umber to the cream. So I want it to look as if you can see the sea in between those trees. So I'm just putting in some nice sort of light blue in there. And I've got a little problem. Some of that texture paste, there's a blob that I don't want there. So I make sure that it's absolutely bone dry, dry it with a hairdryer, and then I can sand it with a piece of sandpaper and get rid of it. And then go over it again with some glue. So that's what I'm doing here, and I just flatten it right out with the sandpaper. And so I've decided to go over I went a bit mad with the peach because I liked it. But I'm going to go over it now with a nice blue, between midnight blue and royal blue, there in the top part of the sky. So I'll just go over that peach a little bit. And I'm just using what's on my brush to put some darks into the foreground. So I'm just deciding if I should put some birds in the sky there. And I have decided to do that. So I take a very small, tiny palette knife, as you see there, and I put on a little bit of the cream and a little bit of black. And I use my fingernail, I dip my fingernail into the paint to make the birds. Because I find that if you use a brush, even a fine brush, they just don't look right. They just don't. They look wrong. They look too big. Whereas this way, they're very subtle. They're very, very fine because it's your fingernail and not a brush. And I always think they look nice. So what I do is I put the black on first, and then I sort of let that dry, especially if it's a light in the cloud area, which I'm doing at the moment. and then I put the white over it when it's almost dry. And obviously, if I was putting the birds in the dark sky, I would put the white in first, and then maybe a little bit of black in places on the wings of the bird. So I hope you enjoyed the video and got some tips and tricks. The channel can be supported via super thanks or simply by liking, sharing and subscribing. And with that, I'll say bye for now. And as always, love from Cornwall.